It is 1:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. Breaking news out of New York as the New York Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh. According to Adam Schefter, Saleh was 20-36 as head coach with the Jets, and they never made the playoffs under his leadership. Jets defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich will be the interim head coach. In other NFL news, Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is expected to miss the remainder of 2024 with the knee injury he suffered in Week 4 against the Chargers. Brian Callahan spoke to the media yesterday at St. Thomas Sports Park and gave insight into Jeffrey Simmons' elbow injury.
Again, everything that we had prior to and at this point is that it needed a little bit of time to heal, and that it would be better in a week's time, be better in 2 weeks' time, and that was the genesis behind the decision to sit him on Monday night. Is that he'd be able to in really 2 weeks' time from the injury would be a much better spot. So ultimately, that's where we landed on it because it would be in his best interest for longevity's case to keep him out.
For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Happy Tuesday. It's Blaine and Zach here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. And, of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. 2:20 will be joined by Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio and Mack Talk that you can hear tonight right after 3HO. But first, let's start with the breaking news out of ESPN this morning. The Jets Woody Johnson decided to do kind of, I think, in my opinion, maybe a little bit of a weird thing. Fire your defensive head coach, and your interim head coach is also the defensive coordinator. And but he fired him just kind of like on the spot after discussions, I guess, with maybe Joe Douglas or whoever else maybe is he close confidence. With Woody Johnson, maybe it was just all Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't put it past all that either. I can't wait to see Aaron Rodgers go on Pat McAfee show and just deny that. Oh, I'm just so shocked Robert Saleh is gone. But he has been fired. They're the first NFL team to fire a head coach. This is the first time in I think, ever, if I'm not mistaken, that the Jets have fired a head coach mid-season.
It's not even mid-season.
Well, I mean, yeah, but in season, I guess I should say in season.
Oh, they didn't.
So
Bruce Cosley? No,
I don't know. I don't even think I know who that is.
I don't know. I think he might have.
I know a lot of stuff about the NFL. That one went right over my head.
I think he used to be the head coach of the Bengals.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, listen, Robert Saleh hasn't done a tremendous job. He's been given basically crap at the quarterback position. It's going to be hard for anybody to win when you have crap at the quarterback position. I think Aaron Rodgers was a bad move by them. It felt I felt like Aaron Rodgers was hitting that Russell Wilson wall for a couple seasons where you're kind of like, he's not the same guy. How quick is Father Time going to come for him? And I don't know. Like, you name I thought they would go offense, right? You would go with Nathaniel Hackett. But what was interesting, I mean, I wouldn't have, but I thought they would have, because you go with the guy that likely your quarterback jives with the most. But what I thought was interesting, Blaine, was in Woody Johnson's statement. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have these statements from the owners after a fire, when you kind of get a glimpse of what they felt wasn't working, and they talked about Ulbrich having the utmost respect of the staff and the players. And I thought is it kind of a subtle dig that's saying that Robert Saleh has lost the respect of staff and players in the ownership size, and that's the reason why they need to go ahead and make the change?
I have no idea. I should have reached out, because I was actually a little surprised. I would say, just from afar watching, you just never know. But I feel like Aaron Rodgers and him just did not click. And then things weren't even good on, the defense was okay. I thought they were a little, playing under, their normal standard for their defense compared to previous years on the Saleh. But I think they were still okay. But I just wanted to see a little bit more. I think maybe it's more the team not having the success, even though, it's a lot of Aaron Rodgers forcing, and I don't know if They've been talking about things you should or should not be doing with Saleh being the head coach. Maybe he wanted to run the football more, and it was always a battle, when they're in games and how you're installing the offense for the week. I have no idea. What I can say is, looks like regardless of how Aaron Rodgers is playing, looks like he won. Because you see that one time when he walks up to Saleh and then he pushes him away.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, 2 games ago. So that shows you there was some fracture there from at some point in time. And I don't know if it's from his offseason for missing the last mini camp, which was voluntary, where he wasn't there. And
no, he didn't. I mean, it just didn't seem like a fit. And whatever team was getting Aaron Rodgers was getting this version of Aaron Rodgers. This isn't a Jets necessarily a conflict because he just went to the Jets. Mm-hmm. Any team that was getting Aaron Rodgers was going to get this Aaron Rodgers that was going to miss minicamp, that was going to go on these retreats and all this kind of stuff, was going to throw everybody else under the bus. So that was probably going to see this kind of decline.
It wasn't going to change, but as far as it was a voluntary camp, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it also leaked into some of the other stuff and all that. And then, because, he complained in Green Bay about not building, not being able to build chemistry with the young receivers. And then here comes Jordan Love, who has instant chemistry with the receivers because he was missing time there. He comes over here and misses time with a whole new slate of wide receivers. And I always said, regardless of what happens, it's always going to be a little bit, because everybody's like, Aaron Rodgers is Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers. He's going to, doesn't matter about the ACL tear, doesn't matter about chemistry. And this year, you're seeing that it's not necessarily, he's still going to the Hall of Fame, but he's not necessarily still a Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of the year. He's had a terrible time throughout the year adjusting to the scheme, the players around him. And listen, Alan Lazard's dropping balls like crazy too. So it's just, some of that, I think, got pushed under the rug because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and he's always going to be that guy. But something stinks, and it's usually I feel like Aaron Rodgers right now. Like, I don't think it was really the head coach. That was the least of their issues. I would have fired Nathaniel Hackett, but then you don't really have anybody that could take his place. What are you going to do, promote Todd Downing? I mean, let's be honest here. We all know how that went.
Oh, man, that would have been great. Just to watch.
Just to watch
get some clarity. I know we're all talking real fast and everything else. He tore his Achilles and not his ACL. You are always going to get the version of Aaron Rodgers and his personality. Mm-hmm. You can like it or not like it. I would not like that. And I just think somebody needs to have a thorough conversation with him regardless. But he probably still was going to be Aaron Rodgers. The problem there in Green Bay, to me, at the finish line when he was there, was more so when he talked about the receivers, he's referencing, hey, I can't win a Super Bowl with young receivers. That's why Love comes in, and now they're on the same page because they are growing together. He needed already proven players. So it's 2 different perspectives where Aaron Rodgers looked at the team and how can I get to Super Bowl level, winning MVPs? That doesn't matter anymore. I need to get to a Super Bowl. And having young receivers that can't be on the same page, I think, was a hurdle he felt like he shouldn't have to be having at this point in his career. So ultimately, he wanted out. So that's why he wanted out, let alone some probably play calling and LaFleur and him, trying to still appease to one another. I thought LaFleur did a fantastic job of navigating with, the smartest guy in the room type player, which is Aaron Rodgers, and that's how he's always been. So that's kind of how I viewed that whole process. Now, when he was there, he played injured that last year and still did well. I think he had a serious ankle sprain. He kept playing, and it made him look bad. Even when he played, I think he played the Titans, he couldn't even step to throw balls, and he still was playing. So then that reflected in his numbers. So that shows you one thing about Aaron Rodgers, though. He'll play injured, and he didn't care about the stats because he knew he still would be better than anybody else. So I think all of that incumbency, and then they drafted Love first round. He's like, that's disrespectful to me. Same thing that happened, what he did to Brett Favre. Yeah. So payback, so you know what. So I think all that culmination, he had to go. Now he goes to the Jets, and, the Jets are the Jets, and Brett Favre went there, and it was no big issue because he didn't have this I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread attitude. He was more, how can I help this team get over the hump? And you're dealing with New York media. So everything is increase like it's on steroids there with anybody, as we've seen multiple quarterbacks, young and old, not have success there. Then he's not the same player he used to be. He's still a good quarterback. He's not the elite level quarterback. And we could say, oh, he's not even good because he threw 3 picks last week. Well, in totality, he's still a good starting quarterback. So he needs to have pieces around him and make sure he's got protection. They tried to appease to that, and he feels like he needs more weapons. Probably if Devontae Adams is available, they would try to get him. I don't know if they still are. So at this point in time, I still think he's a solid quarterback. I think ownership needs to will him in a little bit and be more of a team guy, but you got to know what you were getting from the beginning. He was never that guy. So you got to deal with what you traded for and try to make the best of it. And Saleh was the guy that had to get hung here for everything that has happened, regardless if it was his fault or Andrew Rodgers' fault or not.
Just real quick on this, if you're the GM, Joe Douglas, and you see that Robert just got shown the door, the head coach, you're probably on the hot seat next.
Yep.
How much are you really trying to get a Devontae Adams deal done right now to try to save your job? Or are you just going to,
I'm trying to get it done.
Yeah.
And I don't even care what it takes, because if I get canned for it,
and the owner should probably want that too at this point too.
I think it's easy to sell.
Yeah.
So to me, this signals to me that Aaron Rodgers is winning.
Yeah.
For sure. As far as I'm talking
winning
about
games, just winning.
Right. Winning in the front office about what's going on with the team.
Win that power
whether
struggle.
it's right or wrong. Right, the power structure, no doubt.
All right, when we come back, we're going to shift gears to Will Levis. We're going to talk about Will Levis' performance and if he's actually doing enough even when the situation is right. If you want to get on the conversation, 615-737-1045. This is 1045 The Zone. I'm Zach, he's Blaine, and we're Blaine and Zach. Blaine and Zach here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. Coach Mack at 2:20 p.m. later today for his weekly spot, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford. And, of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff I want to talk about Will Levis. I've been kind of saving. I kind of accumulated some data, some information throughout the bye week. So first, I want to start with all the excuse-making people like to make for him. So what I did, Blaine, was take Will Levis's performance from weeks 1 through 3 and compared it to all quarterbacks weeks 1 through 4. That met a minimum threshold, of course. If you played like 2 snaps and 2 throws for someone that got injured, you're not getting included. And I removed turnovers, all the fumbles, all the interceptions. I removed all the sacks. And I removed all the scrambles from every quarterback to figure out where does Will Levis rank among the quarterbacks in terms of being efficiency.
Okay.
And he ranked 27th still. So he's still not giving you even average league efficiency, removing turnovers, sacks, and scrambles among all the quarterbacks.
So what was that data? Like, what was the numbers?
Well, these numbers just kind of, when the reason why is because I don't want to get people bogged down in it. The rank is really what matters.
Right.
And he's 27th out of 33 quarterbacks during that time. And his success rate, though, was 44.3% on those plays. So that's a different metric, success rate. And that's 26th best in the NFL. So he's not giving you, removing the turnovers, removing the sacks, removing the scrambles. He's still not giving you average league play in the NFL.
What were you expecting based off what you've seen?
Well, no. I mean, I still think that's very telling is what I'm saying. It's very telling. This is for the people who say, well, if you remove the turnovers, well, if you remove the sacks, he's good. He's still good. Don't worry about it. And really, that's not the case.
I'd love to dig into those numbers. See, I'm a dig into the numbers because every play has its own case. That's why I asked you what were the efficiency numbers.
Well, it's plus 0.115, but I don't think that's really going to tell you much.
Here's why I say that is, okay, the Titans had a bye. So I got to watch football, especially NFL football, freely and just watching every team. And you know what I saw with quarterback play? Like a roller coaster ride. Didn't matter if you've been in the league a long time or hadn't been. It was up and down all over the place. So there's a lot of inconsistency within quarterback play to me this year, just in general, for whatever reason, old or young. So I saw Flacco look like he was Flacco of the Ravens. And I saw Aaron Rodgers looked like he was a rookie, so it was just kind of like, how much pressure are we putting on these quarterbacks to be great or just to be efficient enough to help their teams win when it takes a total team and everybody is blaming quarterbacks when ultimately it's what's around you as a quarterback. So do you actually need a big-time quarterback?
Well, see, that's what's interesting.
An efficient quarterback that is just okay with weapons around him.
So it depends on what you want. Do you want to be competitive or do you want to contend? Because I think if you want to contend, you need a great quarterback, a quarterback that can make things better around you. If you want to just be competitive, then I think that, okay, it's kind of like the truck and the trailer thing. Are you the quarterback that can pull the team, or are you getting pulled by the team? So in this case, right now, Levis is neither. That's what I'm trying to throw out here is right now. Does not mean because we're coming off a bye. We're coming off a win. We still got time for Will Levis to turn it around. But Will Levis is not that guy. You take away all the sacks, all the turnovers, he's still not that guy. He's still not giving you league average quarterback play. He's below
who's the guys
average.
Behind him?
Well, Bryce Young would be one of them. There was Anthony Richardson was behind him as well. I mean, it's Deshaun Watson. It's not guys you really want to be associated with for the most part. That's the problem. He's basically around a bunch of guys that
Where was Aaron
You don't
Rodgers?
really want to be associated. I'd have to go back and
they're
look.
saying that they've only scored.
I'm going off that graphic I put out on Twitter.
Right.
So,
but they're saying, the Jets get Aaron Rodgers. But see, everybody's going to give him a pass because he was MVP and all these things. He's got a history. I get it. But you only as good as your last performance or your last season. And this season, they have averaged the same amount of points that they did when they had Zach Wilson. And how bad was he?
Oh, yeah, very bad.
Right. But nobody's blaming Aaron Rodgers.
Not as bad as Will Levis, I will say that. Wait a minute. Sorry, Will Levis is not as bad as Zach Wilson. Sorry, I had that
Other way
backwards.
around. Right. So what I'm getting at, there's a lot of inconsistency, and I just don't know why it is. Sometimes it's scheme, systems, and we can look at numbers, but there's always, when there's numbers involved, there's always a deeper root of the cause.
But I think we've talked about what the deeper root of the cause is that he's a half a second slower than everybody else on the field. Ultimately, I think that's the deep root of the cause, is that Will Levis is just half a second slower than everybody else playing football.
Right. So do you think the Titans have that number?
I mean, they should. They should have that number. I don't know if they're going to act on that number this year, because they are under the impression, like we are, that, hey, this season, we're finding out what Will Levis can actually turn into. Maybe they think that right now this is just an adjustment period, which it could be. All of this could be an adjustment period. So. This is a 3-game sample size, and I'm fully aware, compared to everybody else's 4-game sample size, or 2-game or 3-game sample size. So everybody's got the same sample size in this quarterback, listing.
I'd love to see, like, who's in a new system and scheme. How many years have they played together, which this is a kind of a new group.
Okay, well, who's at the top of the list is Sam Darnold.
Right.
Near the top of all these rankings, no matter what.
In a system that is exactly the same with a superstar receiver as it is the 49ers. So he already knew the system when he got there. So it's not like he's learning a new system. Oh, by the way, he is not in his second year playing in this league. So there are exceptions to the rule.
When you keep dwindling it down, you're basically going to put him in the bucket of Bryce Young. I mean, that's the guy. He's much closer to Bryce Young than he is C.J. Stroud.
Well,
but really, it's just Anthony Richardson. So we can't dwindle down too much, or we're just talking about those 4 quarterbacks, and we kind of know where all those 4 quarterbacks rank.
Well, I mean, basically, you saying then he shouldn't be playing.
I wasn't a big Will Levis fan coming out anyway, and basically everything you saw about Will Levis in college is coming to fruition here, and everybody can scream about the deep ball or new scheme and all this kind of stuff, but he had familiarity and overlapping with this offense, with Liam Cohen's offense. Liam Cohen's offense is not that much different than what we think this Brian Callahan offense is. Maybe different players executing it, but these are better players right now. The problem is
but are the players actually living up to what they're supposed to be?
I think that a lot of it falls onto the quarterback, not getting them the ball, or not being active. No,
there's more to just in the receivers. There's also the line.
Yeah, well, and that's why you remove sacks. Involved. I mean, like, if I didn't remove sacks, trust me, sacks play a big part in it.
Okay, but where are the pressures?
Okay, so when he's kept clean, now that you said that, when he's kept clean, no pressure whatsoever, 28th in yards per attempt, he's 32nd. That means he's bad in turnover-worthy plays. It means he has one of the highest, actually, turnover-worthy plays.
Out turnovers, right?
No, this is something this is just when he's kept clean. So we've switched now to keeping clean. He's kept clean.
Well, you switched. I didn't say that.
Well, you said it was all about the offensive line. What about when he was kept clean?
I said it's a culmination. You were talking about receivers.
Now we're going to where it's kept clean.
You were talking about receivers. Yeah, here's what people don't understand.
So that's why I said we're moving to kept clean.
Is that it's a totality of an offense. So the receivers, the quarterback, and the offensive line have to be in sync. You can't separate them. They are all attached. That's the human element that the numbers can never define. Now, you could talk about him throwing the ball late. Okay, yeah, compared to everybody. So he should be a quarterback. Well, what if the guy wasn't open? I'm just saying in an equation. He wasn't open. So then he tries to get to number 2. So then all of a sudden he holds onto the ball. Oh, then his line fails him. then they hit him or pressure him. He drifts and does his own thing.
Okay, so now we're throwing that out.
Left.
We're throwing the pressures out. So there's no pressure whatsoever in what these stats I'm about to tell you.
Right. Oh, with what you're about to tell me, but there wasn't a part of your first.
There was. I removed sacks.
You said sacks. That's not pressure.
I know, but I removed sacks for everybody equally.
I know, but we're talking about pressures.
Well, that's part of the pressure. So now we're going to. He's kept clean. Okay, so stay with me here. Kept clean.
I can't keep up. You keep moving the needle.
No,
here.
I went off of what you just said, and I literally said, "Hey, we're moving to when he's kept clean."
But you're not. It's still explaining all three working in unison. That's what your numbers can't do.
So now we're going to say that these.
Do that though, can they?
Well, they can, because I also have the Titans are 15th and above average.
Yeah, but it's an individual play each play. Like you can't. The numbers only can.
Okay,
take you
I'm going to get through these, whether you keep interrupting me or not.
The numbers.
So he's kept clean. When Will Levis is kept clean, he's 28th in yards per attempt. 28th. He's 32nd, which is
just
one
like
of the worst.
Power rankings of the team.
Yeah, pretty much. He's 32nd in turnover-worthy plays. So that means he has one of the highest turnover-worthy plays. When he's kept clean,
he's last.
He's there's 33 or 34 quarterbacks. So he's about dead last. He has 4 interceptions. 4 of his interceptions have come when there was a clean pocket. He's 31st in passer rating with a clean pocket with 81.3. So everything in here's the thing, everybody's gonna be like, well, how often is he kept clean? Listen, he's only kept clean 59.8% of the time, which is 30th in the NFL. Okay, so he's not been kept clean a lot, but he's also responsible for 17.8% of his own pressures that have been generated. Because people think pressure rates is strictly an offensive line stat. I think it's both.
No,
sometimes it's coverage.
It is.
Sometimes it's the it's the quarterback. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's 17.8%. That's 12th highest. So here's the thing. Darnold is only been operating from 62% of a clean pocket. So that's only about 3% more than Will Levis right now. So it's not like pressure is the end-all, be-all, or a clean pocket is the end-all, be-all. But Will Levis, even with a clean pocket, is not very good. It's there in this advanced data. He's not very good.
I mean,
through the 3 weeks. I'm with you. I'm still willing to give him more time. But, right now, I don't know.
If the data is that clear, I think Brinker and those guys, don't you think they're pretty smart over there too?
Listen.
So why is he still playing?
Because I think they want to. I think that there is a little bit of an ego thing, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a little bit of an ego thing where you're like, first off, you want the definitive answer. Right, you got to, whether you think that maybe this all tells you there's a definitive answer or not, I am willing to leave a door open to there is a path, right? There is a path that maybe it all starts clicking. There's a path where this entire offense in general just starts clicking, but maybe it just starts clicking for Will Levis. But I do think that it's about finding out the definitive answer. And while they do have all this stuff, I do think there's something to maybe Brian Callen said, just giving it time. Just give it time. I can fix it. I can do it. It's that little bit of, it's kind of like when you stay when a significant other stays too long with someone that they shouldn't have, and all the friends are telling you to, break up with them. Don't stay with them. They're never going to change. And you're like, I can fix them. I can change them. I think that's the relationship between a head coach and a specifically an offensive head coach and a quarterback sometimes, is that they got that I can fix them, mentality.
Well, they believe in him. And it's not even always about fixing. At the same time, I believe in him, and I believe he can get it done. Now, eventually, at some point, you have the rubber meets the road, and if all these numbers come into play, they have to start making decisions. I don't think it's that time yet, but it is getting very interesting with an injury, and you start to run out of time.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you got to make tough decisions. And in this case, I think if he's injured, you got a good excuse to not play him and continue to evaluate what Mason Rudolph can get with you winning games. Because coaches are all about winning games at the end of the day, and maybe not, let's say, trying to get position themselves for a better pick.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'd love to see Sam Darnold's numbers when he was a rookie with the Jets or in his second year with the Jets. I'm sure those numbers look just somewhat similar or worse. See,
but
so
again,
that's
it's like, how long do you stay patient?
They stayed patient with him. I don't know how long
I think
Sam
they
Darnold was
stayed
there.
patient for
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, three or 4 years. I mean, they were there for a while.
It's tough. So I think what's becoming a trend with the way the money is set up and everybody's trying to draft that home run hit at the
3
quarterback
seasons, by the way.
Position, 3 seasons for Sam Darnold, which I like Sam Darnold, by the way. I wanted the Titans to sign him in the offseason, is that we're putting too much pressure on these young quarterbacks, especially first-round picks, because of the team is surrounded. You're expecting a lot out of them when they have to go through the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of understanding not only the offensive scheme, but also developing as a player in the National Football League. And they feel like they're already there and, quarterbacks, and they are not. And it takes patience and time. Now, what's happened in the league is no one wants to give them the patience at the time, whether it's the organization, the teammates, to fan bases, to media, because of the amount of money that is being made. So will that trend go backwards now and start playing veteran quarterbacks as the starters with the weapons surrounded them that are already there, or growing pieces where a veteran quarterbacks know, this is a hot potato. I got to get rid of it. I got a young offensive line that is the youngest in the NFL, let alone the quarterback is. But now I am a veteran quarterback. I know I have to get it to my weapons sooner than later, even if I have to throw the ball away. But I'm not going to, make a mistake because I held on to the ball.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting where this trend goes. I think that's what you're leading to, and you're not even saying it is, because I think all the young quarterbacks, and not all of them, some of them have done great.
They're struggling for
Purdy,
yeah.
They're not winning games.
Something about Brock Purdy, though, like Fred Warner, you heard him talk about it like that summer, right? And they had Jimmy G, Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy, I believe, that year. And Fred Warner said, well, this guy's not even a rookie, talking about Brock Purdy, the way he had command of the offense, the way he did everything. And that just goes, to me, it's kind of like the offensive line issue. There's a larger quarterback readiness kind of issue going on here. Yeah. And it's not just about readiness, whether you should sit on the bench or play, drafted in the first round, whatever. It's that coming out of college. I feel like there's I would agree with that. Look at this quarterback.
But he also had pieces in place. They had a running game and they had receivers.
He
and a great play caller.
Outside of Caleb Williams, he had probably one of the best spots a rookie quarterback could be thrust into. He got thrusted in at the end of the season, but
he still did it.
He did it, and then he proved last year that it wasn't just the system. It was like he can operate that system at a high level, and Will Levis still has time that he can do that. But that's what he's got to show. It's not about can Will Levis hit on 15 deep shots in a game. It's about can Will Levis operate with peak efficiency to put this team in a position to succeed on a drive by drive basis. And he has had, even dating back to last year, he's really struggled with being able to do that consistently.
Yeah. And to your point, there's one point that I do agree that it's not in your stats, but it tells me in your stats. And you said he holds onto the ball. Well, one of the main mechanisms that I love in a quarterback is a quick thinker.
Yeah.
And that's telling me he's not, because he didn't throw to his first read, whether it was open or not. He didn't throw it. Well, then get to your number 2 and bang, let it fly.
Get to their quicker. See, that's the thing is like people think that you got to get to it quick. It's like, okay, I see that. You got to see the route developing, right? Like you got to see what's at and then move to your next guy.
So is the game too fast, and will it slow down where he actually? Here, I'll even take it through to my eyeballs. And what happened with me is when I got out there the first time, I thought I couldn't even read jersey numbers running by me. I'm serious.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can only imagine.
Oh my God! And I'm in week 10. I'm becoming my first start, and go, oh man, this is insane. I didn't even see, the guy could have ear-holed me. I didn't even see him. So this is happening. So game 2 come, the game is starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then game 3, then game 4, I said, it feels like college again.
Yeah.
It felt like college. I don't know why that happened. All I can say is my eyes, and I know where to put them, and the game slowed down. It was just experience, playing more. I could put it on a lot of different things, but I can tell you one thing, I don't know why it happened.
Yeah.
And why it doesn't happen for certain players. I don't care if you went to Notre Dame, Bama, UT. It just never changes because, I don't know, maybe they relied so much on their athleticism and the game just got too fast. I don't know. But that is the mechanism that you're actually, one of the traits that you're talking about, I think is connected to that. And if he doesn't fix it, doesn't figure it out here over the next 2 or 3 games, I think then you start saying it's time to move on.
Yeah. We'll talk more about patience when we come back from the break. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not. And people are really tired of that stuff. So if you had it with the unreliable vehicle repair shops, come on over to Eurofix. And Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really ready so you don't have to stand around waiting all freaking day. And Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer and without the dealer pricing. And that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. So why would you want to pay for that? Well, at Eurofix, reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty, plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So make sure you call ahead as loaner cars are very, very popular. So if you're tired of the unreliable repair shops, come on over to Reliable, and that'll be Eurofix. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Welcome back in. We're finishing up hour one here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. 615-737-1045 if you want to come in, join the conversation. We're talking about Will Levis. And then, of course, we have the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And Blaine, I thought there was right before the break, I teased us about talking about patience because Brian Moore had a really good, in the F&M Bank Chat on YouTube, had a good question, or a really statement. I'm just tired of being asked to be patient. Mm-hmm. The offensive line and the quarterback and ... How about we just win some games? And patience, I think, is the big key when discussing about when Will Levis, what the leash is on Will Levis, what the path is on Will Levis. And listen, Brian Callahan has talked a lot about this season. If he's healthy, he's playing, pretty much. He's our guy. As long as he's healthy, he's the starter. And, there are 52 other guys on the team. Everybody wants to win. And obviously, it's not just one person's fault all the time for every loss. But like you said, the quarterback gets the bulk of the blame in the media, gets the bulk of the blame by the fans. And obviously, the offensive line is getting some blame here from Brian Moore. So I just want to ask you in general, what determines how patient you can be with Will Levis for this particular team? Because is it really about wins at this point? I mean, this team, the Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker had talked about over the offseason that this was a kind of a 2-year, 3-year rebuild and preached, patience. But then they also talked about being competitive, and all their moves that they've made scream that they want to be they want to be competitive quicker than what those words conveyed in February.
What do you think competitive means?
Well, I mean, winning some games here and there, but building a quality product on the field, a consistent quality product.
What do you think
that
last record means after the first year? What would you say that be?
I'm sorry. Can you rephrase that?
What would the record be if you're saying competitive?
I mean, realistically, a competitive team right now, probably within this division, I would have said a 7 or 8 win team, maybe 9, I think is the top end.
Do you think that's what the fans thought?
No, I do not think that's what the fans thought.
Right,
and listen, I don't blame the fans for thinking that because, I mean, look at what they did in the offseason. They go sign Calvin Ridley. They spend all this money everywhere else. They get Lloyd Cushenberry. They get L'Jarius Sneed. So they've done a lot to lead the fans on, I would say. Whether they feel that way in the building or not, whether they felt that they were building a playoff team in 2024 or not, they at least led the fans down that path that they were. They were building a playoff team.
Well, see, you said 7, and then I said 8 or 9. That's what I look at the talent on the team, and that tells me where you fit in the league. Doesn't mean that's how many wins or losses you'll have, but they are a middle-of-the-road team now as far as talent. Now, that's just on talent. Yeah. Now you talk about new coach, new chemistry with players, new offensive and defensive systems, which defense is always easier, especially if you're running an attacking style defense, which means we're always going to be aggressive natured and not sitting back in a lot of zones and everything else. So those all play, and this is why I said that. And it was funny because a lot of fans would ask me, and they'd look at me like I was cross-eyed when I'd say they're a middle-of-the-road team. Yeah. Because they thought that all those signings were bigger. I go, nah, they're going to be a borderline playoff contending. So have they underperformed? Yes, to my expectations. And to me, it goes back to special teams, O-line, and quarterback play. To be honest, of all of that, and more so maybe O-line and quarterback of all of that. So you say, okay, how patient will I be this season? Not even putting last year there because of all these moving parts to the quarterback. You say, okay, we need to find out before the season starts if he can be our franchise quarterback. That's what you're trying to accomplish. And you say, well, new system, new scheme. He's made some horrific plays, but he's also made some good plays. So you say, how do we get him out of this funk? So you have injuries and you have a decision to make going in after a bye week. So if you want to slow play this, you can then play the veteran. Or you can say, we're going to find out now, injury or not, and we're going to let him play and start and fight through it. If not, we pull him. Yeah. Because once you pull him, now he's a backup, and then he's never the starter with this organization probably again, unless Mason Rudolph gets injured. He stands on the sideline, learns a lot, and then goes back out there and then looks like the guy
Makes the most of his opportunity.
Yep.
I mean, make them change their mind about you. That's essentially what you have to do. Jay in the chat is like, spell out how many wins Mason gives us. I don't think Mason gives you a couple of wins in the earlier in the year, maybe. But I don't think Mason's going to give you some like 10-win season or anything. So I mean,
he did win 6 in a row. We got to give him
maybe
credit.
You never know. Maybe he pulls a Tannehill. Maybe he's the next Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith. I don't know. But I remember the year. This is kind of funny because I was remembering this, and we'll go to break after this. So, Blaine, you remember when Ryan Tannehill got signed and there were the reports from Tannenbaum and Rossini about, Tannehill's really pushing for the job and Tannehill may end up taking the job from Marcus, and everybody's like, oh, no, that's crazy. This year, it was like, a lot of people said that about Rudolph. There were a couple of people out there say, I wouldn't be surprised if Rudolph ends up being the starter at some point and all this kind of stuff. And everybody's like, oh, you're crazy. And I was one of those people. Oh, you're crazy. I don't know. There could be a situation here where those people end up being right, as crazy as they were. They knew something about this whole situation that we didn't know. When we come back, we're going to talk about Levis's 2023 versus 2024. We're going to get to your phones. We're going to get to Jonathan in Virginia and whoever's calling in now, 615-737-1045. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 1045 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is here and in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun in the fall season. And we got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers, as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making memories. And call us today at 615, of course, 709-8699. That's 709-8699 to take advantage of these scorching hot deals. Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and lights bright.
Hour number 2 here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the phone number if you want to call in and talk to us. And then, of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. Next segment, we'll be joined by Coach Mack. Talk Tennessee Titans and the matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. But first, we're going to go to your phones and talk to Jonathan in Virginia. He wants to talk about Will Levis. Jonathan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Oh, crap. Hey, Blaine and Zach. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Great.
I was just saying, I think Levis deserves a little bit more time because he didn't get to play but 6 or 7 games last year before he got hurt. And I mean, when they drafted it, they didn't bring him in to be a starter right away anyway, so he shouldn't have really played. So he had to learn one offense last year, and then this year he comes in, he's got to learn a totally different offense and
Going in and out.
and everything. So he's completely still a rookie. So I mean, he ain't gonna be doing but like so good considering he's got to play get behind the offensive line that he's got in front of him now.
Yeah, I think that, I think some fans agree with Jonathan. I think maybe there's probably a larger, group of fans that agree with Jonathan about it's just been, 12 or 13 games. There's still plenty of time. You got to be a little bit patient because maybe things click. We've seen it with, Josh Allen. We've seen it now with a few other guys. I mean, even Caleb Williams it's starting to click for him a little bit. He threw for 300 yards this last week. The prior week, he was doing a good job just playing point guard. And really, that's what Will Levis needs to be. He needs to be the point guard, not the chuck it guy, or the three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, again, fans have a luxury of patience if they want it. A lot more than players and coaches and GMs and vice presidents and of all this stuff because, crap rolls downhill, right? Like, at some point, when's Amy's Woody Johnson moment, right? That she's going to come down and make a change, whether that's with the GM, whether that's with maybe Chad Brinker, whether that's with, maybe she says, hey, it's time to maybe bench Will Levis because we need to win some games. At some point, the patience for, I guess, the line or the gap of patience between fans and the staff and those inside the building is a lot wider than I think what fans want to admit.
Oh yeah. Well, that's because the objective is,
and
everybody's trying to win now, but you're also trying to evaluate. And that's why I say I think 2 or 3 more games. I wish he would have played in this Dolphins game, but he didn't. That way, I just gave you the example of me personally, the speed of the game, and it took me 4 games. Now, I'm not the quarterback, so obviously I think that takes a little bit longer. But at the same time, he's had some experience based off last season. Just now it's with new players and a new scheme and system and coaches. So, I think a couple more games of seeing him evaluated, and maybe they hold off on it just because he's injured. I don't know. They haven't even worked out any quarterback. So it tells me that they believe that even if in worst case scenario, that they believe he can be a backup. At worst case scenario, if they don't decide to go in a different direction. So I feel the pain. I'm feeling the pain too. I want the Titans to win more than anybody, probably just as much as if I was still playing with them. But I think we need a couple more games of seeing if he can eventually go through his progression reads. And to your point with their stats and analytics over there, with him going 1, 2, 3, bang, and let the ball fly. And so we'll see. Now, sometimes that gets skewed by the line, and that might have. Sometimes you can tweak a quarterback a little bit, and that he feels pressure, but there is no pressure because he's gotten hit or because he holds onto the ball because he's made a mistake, doesn't believe what he's seeing. So we want to see if he can get over these hurdles and believe what he sees and get rid of the ball on time.
A lot of people have been clamoring for more deep shots. And I think a lot of people are romanticizing the 2023 deep ball prowess of Will Levis. He made some really great games. He's, especially the Atlanta game. I think that's really what they're romanticizing, is that they're really clinging on hope to the Atlanta game. And that Atlanta game was unsustainable performance.
That never happened again.
It was a great performance.
It was.
So I'm not taking anything away from Will Levis in that game, but to think that game was going to be indicative of his career when that is such an unsustainable way to win, well, just look at this. You can go watch the film, obviously, because he threw a lot of interceptions last year on the deep ball. He threw 3 interceptions on the deep ball last year. He's already at 3 this year. So just so people know, last year after the Atlanta game, he went 19 of 49, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions going deep. That's not good. That's actually, his completion percentage on deep balls was 20th best, 38.6%. Now, these are not high, probability of being caught passes, but he's 20th. And that includes the Atlanta game, by the way, the 20th. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that he threw 3 deep touchdowns in one game, the Atlanta game, and threw 1 touchdown the rest of the way in the deep ball. This deep ball stuff is not really, I think people think because he's got the great arm talent, the arm strength, the arm power, the cannon, that means he's a great deep thrower. You also have to have accuracy, right? I mean, you can't just be especially if you don't have a Jalen Hyatt just running free, untouched, every play or something like that. You have to have, some accuracy. You have to have some willingness to make decisions. He's actually quicker, Blaine, from last year. Last year, he had 3.21 seconds time to throw last year, which was 23rd fastest, so not that fast. This year, he's 3.09 seconds, which is 13th fastest. So he's actually gotten faster throwing the deep ball. The problem is that he's 3 for 11. 2 of those 3 ended up in touchdowns, so that's good. But he's 3 of 11, and then 3 interceptions on top of those 2 touchdowns. So he has not been an accurate deep ball passer this year either. So he's just not very accurate going deep. And that's just, I think, something fans just have to realize. Do you want some deep shots? Yes, I get it. You probably want to see that number increase because you want to have the defense scared a little. But there's also the too high safety issue going around the NFL. Deep shots are just down in the league in general. But even when he takes them, he hasn't been very good. So why do you want more of them? I just don't understand it.
Well, I was going to say, probably believe that he could connect. I could think of 2. He missed Ridley, and then he threw the one out of bounds versus the Bears. That was to Ridley too, wasn't it? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking of deep balls just off the top of my head. What quantifies a deep ball? Over 25 yards?
Anything over 20.
20. Oh, over 20. Oh, man. Yeah. That doesn't sound very good. I want to believe that he is better than those numbers, but the numbers say what they say.
And because everybody thinks that he was so great at the deep shot last year, but he really wasn't. I mean, they just took a lot of them. And they were willing to take those risks and all that kind of stuff because they thought it was going to help them, but really it just put them behind the sticks more often than not. I mean, when you're not connecting on that high of amount of deep ball passes, you're really just hurting the offense more than helping them. Really, they should have last year switched to a more intermediate passing game, short passing game, and instead of going for the highest rate of deep dropbacks ended in a deep pass in the NFL last year, even with Will Levis's limited game time, by the way.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I have to look at each game like there because here's what I can say. Last year, in comparison, is they got into a lot of 3rd and long, and I think the team was in a different spot. What do we have to lose?
Yeah.
Right there. So now we're starting off the season and we feel like we got to win these games. And it's not the attitude of what do we have to lose. So it's a little different perspective based off last season and now. To me, last year was like, oh, I'm a home run hitter. And if I don't hit it, oh, well, I go batting 300, in baseball terms. And that's great. But in football terms, that's horrific. That's horrible. So I think this year now you get to see and dig into their numbers when they go deep and how much he's missing or not. I think now there's a lot more at stake where there is the pressure that you needed to complete the ball or at least gives your receiver a better shot of making a play on the ball. So I think that's probably why it looks so different based off the numbers because Tim Kelly actually, to me, drew up plays I thought that were really well schemed for deep passes.
Yeah.
Other than that, so I think that fit who my man Levis is really, to be honest.
We know that they do a lot of top-down progressions because that's what Brian Callahan talked about, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody's going, 20 yards, or 25 yards down the field or anything either. I don't feel like we've seen a lot of DeAndre Hopkins down the field. Maybe that's injury related. Maybe that's scheme issue because DeAndre Hopkins was a pretty good jump ball guy, down the
As we
field,
saw.
contested catch. And we've seen that one or two times this year, but not all the time. Calvin Ridley, he made a great play on the ball, but he had a drop. I think that he's got one drop down the field, and that's one drop. That's the only drop he's had on these deep ball passes, by the way. So it'll be interesting to see what they do coming out of the bye, because I do think that there are going to be some tweaks and adjustments that are made coming out of the bye for this offense in general. But we'll talk about that with Coach Mack coming up. We'll have him for our weekly segment, 2:20 p.m. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. It's Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey guys, this is Blaine for Edge Peptide Therapy. And listen, I've been hearing about peptides and peptide therapy now for a few months and was curious. So I finally went to Edge Peptide Therapy to find out more. And they did a full blood panel that showed where my body had some small deficiencies and then came up with a tailor-made plan to address those areas with peptides. And since I've started my peptide therapy, I've had a lot of energy and focus, let alone my recovery from my workouts pre and afterwards, before when I was playing, and now even today when I'm out there getting some exercise from my workouts. And recovery peptides have helped with all of this. So if you're looking for an alternative to surgery, consider talking to Edge first. And this month, Edge is offering $150 off your first peptide package for new clients. So why not get started now? Go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
You hear the song. You know it's Tuesday. That means it's Coach Mack here for his weekly talk, his Mack Attack with Blaine and Zach here. Powered by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. And, of course, Mack, I'll just start it right off the top. The Titans' last game was a win. How hard is it for this staff and team to capture and keep the momentum from your first win of the season during the bye week?
Well, first of all, hey, Zach. Hey, Blaine. Look, the fact that they had an open date, which is, very early, but at least they had a chance, to think about it for a minute. And also, we talk about self-scouting during the open date, and normally your open date ideally is week 7 or week 8, so you've got a pretty good body of work to work on. Really 4 weeks, and of course you self-scout after every game. 4 weeks, I think they've pretty much identified what they need to work on. It's not so much of capturing that, it's playing the same type of football that they played down there. And what did they do down there? They were able to run the football. They were able to stay out of, 3rd and 10-plus situations on offense, which gave the defense a chance to be able to, to rest a little bit before you had to go back in. And then they played 4 full quarters, which, to this point they have not done yet. So those types of things, I mean, you've got to put in your memory bank, and you've got to do. But the other thing is of course, their preparation for that ball game was just. I mean, I'm at practice every day. It was very similar to the preparation for all the others, but they just didn't make the back-breaking mistakes that they had made in the first 3 weeks. To basically the first 2 weeks to hand over victories to the opponent. Now Green Bay came in here and beat them pretty good. And that's going to happen in, of course, the National Football League. But the thing that they've got to do is continue to play that brand of football and just not be in a situation where you're 2 scores down and have to drop back and throw every time, because that's not a strength of this football team right now.
Yeah, how much because you talked about self-scouting, so how much can the coaching staff tweak now that they've had time to self-scout? And, obviously the players were away for the bye week, so how much can they actually tweak and manipulate to improve this team on both offense and defense and put players in better positions to succeed?
Well, I mean, that's the whole key all the time with coaching is week to week is put your players in the best position, depending on the opponent that you're playing. But there's not going to be any major shifts. I think the major shift is what I just mentioned earlier, is being able to run the football successively on offense, and so that you're able to play a more balanced football game. That's the one thing that I would say that came out of Monday night down there in Miami. It was a much more balanced football game than they played the previous 3. That's important. And I think that's something that they've been striving to do all along. Now, they know the things that they have to do as far as, because the personnel is going to be the personnel. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the personnel that you're going to have, but you've got to be able to not only practice, but to work in a ball game, a balanced game plan. And that really helped them. That really helped them Monday night, and hopefully they can do some more of that going forward, especially going into this division game with the Colts.
We're on with Coach Mack of Titans Radio, and of course, Mack Talk tonight, right after 3HL here on 104.5 The Zone, and he's brought to you by Two Rivers Ford.
Well, Coach Mack, I guess I know the league is a little bit different in this day and age at the quarterback position with all the 7-on-7 and how much they're developing, but kind of take us through one of your toughest quarterback decisions you had to make when you were a head coach or have seen from afar on the same staff.
Well, I mean, I had Jake Plummer and Josh McCown both, when they were rookies, and so, and both were coming in, taking over. Josh took over for Jake when Jake went to Denver, but both were coming in, following a veteran quarterback, and there were times that and I say we, myself and the quarterbacks had to work through some of those young mistakes that they're going to make. And so that was basically, and, I can remember several times early in his career, after a ball game and telling Jake Plummer before he went to talk to the media, look, it's you and I are joined at the hip. And there's some things, that there's some things you did today that you can't continue to do, but know this, we're gonna continue to work on those types of things, and just know that when you're developing and working on those things, that I've got your back, because I think that's extremely important, to be able to do. And so those types of decisions, I think you have to decide, where your quarterback is at his stage of development. What you're trying to do, not only for now, but for in the future. All of those things are extremely important. But I've experienced it with two, young athletic quarterbacks that took some time to develop, and both of them ended up having, some pretty nice careers in the league.
Well, Coach, man, I watched, a lot of football Sunday, especially NFL. Yeah. And I saw quarterbacks all over the place, up and down, veteran, young quarterback. It didn't matter. It was just like, man, there's a lot of boom versus bust in this league as far as quarterback play from a week-to-week standpoint. I guess, where would you, view quarterbacks play in the National Football League today?
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, because you even see you see veteran quarterbacks. Some of them have been in the league, double-digit years, make mistakes that you think, how could they do that?
Mm-hmm.
You see, younger quarterbacks that all of a sudden come out and are really, really hot for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they look like it was their first game that they're playing in the third, fourth week of the season. So, I mean, to me, here's what's happening in the National Football League as far as quarterback play goes, is the fact that, first of all, defenses starting out this season decided that they're tired of the ball going over their head. And I mean, I've talked to a lot of defensive coordinators. I spent time during the off week doing this. They were tired of the ball going over their head, and plus, when the ball goes up in the air, most of the time, a lot of these offenses are throwing these deep shots, counting on, a defensive pass interference, for must-have big gains. So you saw a lot more too high defenses being played. People are playing too high defenses and willing to give up a little bit of the throwing short just to make quarterbacks read through progressions and sending 4 or 5 to try to speed up the quarterback's clock. Well, people started running the football. You saw people could started running the football very much, and so now what you have seen just as of late, you started to see people start playing more single high safety, and you know what I'm talking about, bringing somebody down the box and putting those corners on the edge out there, man to man, even more. So, I mean, I think it's a yin and a yang as far as to what's going on. But I I watched Jordan Love come back and flip one out of the end zone for a touchdown that, you just shake your head and go, how could he do that? Well, we've seen that. So I can't get inside every quarterback's head, but I do know that you can start seeing the chess match this early in the season, 4 to 5 weeks in, going back and forth between offensive and defensive philosophies throughout the league.
I don't know if Zach, because my mic wasn't working for a second there, how much can Levis improve within a season?
Well, he can improve game to game. I mean, the one thing that I know from all my years of experience in the league, and not just with quarterbacks, but with anybody else, is you can't manufacture experience. And that's the thing that even when I started out coaching linebackers, just having the patience not to give up on a young linebacker if he wasn't reading quite right, or if his eyes weren't quite set. Just being patient enough. It may have seemed simple to me, and it may have seemed simple to the vets in the room, but you play the speed that thing starts working, early on, and sooner or later, once it clicks on for you, and it's a euphemism, but the game slows down. But until the game does slow down, you're going to have to work through some of these things that at times make you just scratch your head. I had a linebacker here that we all know and love, and I love him dearly in Stephen Tulloch, because when he first came in here as a middle linebacker playing between David Thornton and Keith Bullock, I mean, he was just a see ball, get ball, wild horse rider in the middle. And, there would be major gaps sometimes. And once he learned how to read, he became a really solid professional player. But it takes a little bit of patience sometimes with every position.
Well, with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Shifting to the Colts, how difficult is it for the defense to have to game plan, not knowing who the quarterback is, when in this situation, while it may be the same scheme, the two quarterbacks are different in style, ability, and experience?
Yeah, Zach, that's a legitimate point. And again, at this point, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be, whether Richardson will be available. Joe Flacco, again, now you're looking at a guy been in the league, 17 years, that has come in and has been, very patient, being able to spin the ball. Totally, completely different way of operating the quarterback as Richardson is, and their offense is a little bit different because now your RPOs, if you've got Flacco in there, are not in the game plan, but more of your pattern reads are in the game plan. If Richardson comes in, the other thing is if Richardson and Taylor both play, well, then you've got a different kind of animal to have to defend as far as the run game goes. So I agree with you. I don't know who they're going to play yet, but it makes a little bit of difference. It really does.
The Titans have done a good job keeping explosive pass plays to a minimum, but the Colts are tied for second with 18 explosive plays through the air. It doesn't matter if it's Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco. They both got a cannon. They both are not afraid to chuck it deep. How does a pass defense keep those at a minimum during the game?
Well, again, a lot of it is structure. A lot of it is playing, is being able to work down a distance in your favor and knowing when to play too high and knowing when to play a trap coverage or knowing when to play or to bogey a look to make them think it's one thing and give them another just to put a little extra time on it. And the other thing is, if you can get pressure with 4 and cover with 7, that's a much better chance because just mathematically, if you're covering with 7 and they got 5 receivers, then you got 4 over 3, 3 over 2, however you want to configure it. So all of those things make a big difference. But you're right. The receivers that they have, Michael Pittman, Pierce, Josh Downs in the slot, who's a really good player. Mm-hmm. And the other guy that's starting to show up a lot in their passing games, Mo Alley Cox. The tight end. The former basketball player that's a big, long tight end. And so it to me, it depends a little bit on who the quarterback is. But at the same time, keeping the ball from going over your head, two things. Keep the ball from going over your head. And then we just saw it last night with the Chiefs. Mahomes doesn't throw it very far a lot, but when the run after catch is something that you've got to be able to take care of. They did a great job of taking care of run after the catch against a very fast Miami receiving group. They tackled very well at Miami in the back end. So the passes are going to be complete most of the time in the National Football League, thrown under 10 yards. You've just got to spot tackle. All of that's got to come into being.
With Levis's AC joint sprain and he not really knowing where he's at right now in the practice, his availability or anything, they're going to have to put him through the ropes. How important is it for the team to figure out quickly whether or not Levis can play? Because I would assume you'd want the starter, whoever that may be, to get the most or if not all of the reps with the first team this week.
Well, they'll figure that out as the week goes on. I mean, that's what they're going to have to do. They've got a better idea than we do as to where that AC joint is right now. But the thing that I will say about the backup here, again, much like Flacco is up there, you've got a veteran player that veteran players have a really good idea of what's going on, regardless of the number of reps that they get. But I think that will be figured out as the week goes on, and I think they probably will have a little better idea earlier than later.
We're on the phone with Coach Mack of Titans Radio, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford.
Well, Coach, how do you view the Tennessee Titans defense? And when I say that, I'm talking about, do you say they're a very, very good defense, or just a good defense, or they're an elite defense?
Well, I don't think anybody's elite, at this point. Mm-hmm. Anything, because there's too many games left to play. They've done a good job of course, they're number one in the league in yardage, and they're number one in the league in some pretty good stats. But what they need to do is take the ball away a little bit more. I mean, a lot more. They would want to take the football away, a lot more. The thing that I think what they've done is they've gotten really good play out of the two linebackers as far as playing together. The secondary has held up very well. I would like for them to get Jeffrey Simmons back inside, even though those guys did a really nice job Monday night up there against Miami without Jeffrey Simmons in there. I still think this is a football team that really benefits from being able to pressure with four people if they can, and then every now and then, because Denard's got a lot of blitzes that he can bring, but it has to be at the right point. I like what Brownlee has done filling in over there for Cheeto. I think that was a big get if he can continue to progress. So I would say right now they're a good defense. But I say elite, for people that do it for 17 weeks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I guess lastly for me, coming off a bye week, one of the things that all the coaches used to emphasize was, operations from the offensive side, but turnover, ball security, and on defense, fundamental tackling. And that's probably always an issue in this league. What were some of the things that you emphasized coming off of a bye week, regardless, just in general, over the top being that you didn't play for 1 week?
Yeah, well, just getting back to fundamental work. I mean, the thing that's important is, the thing that you can lean on as you go through the season, and you can attest to this as being a former player and a real accomplished player, is you lean on your fundamentals, and you can never let those lag. You can never go through training camp working daily on fundamentals and then all of a sudden let that lag and start just worrying about schemes. So I always wanted to make sure that I kept the fundamentals on both sides of the football very, very sharp, allotting that type of time, and also being sure that I paid a lot of attention, to the big four on the special teams: kickoff return, punt, and punt return, especially punt protection, because that you can't ever get relaxed on that. We've already seen what happens, not scheme wise, but if you just relax and get beat individually, that can have a devastating effect too. So those types of things, I always emphasized every day, and especially when you've had a little bit of time off, re-emphasize it and go back to work on those types of things, because those types of things will carry you through a season.
Just real quick, Coach Mack, and we'll end on this. Can you talk about the good season that Amani Hooker is having? You're not on Titans Twitter or anything, but fans have been real down on Amani Hooker since he's gotten his contract. And I've always thought he's been really good. But this year, I think he's playing exceptionally well. And I know that Quandre Diggs has been added in this news, but he seems like this scheme has really fit what Amani Hooker loves to do and what he can do. And I just think that he's been having an exceptional year and should be in consideration for one of the better safeties in all of the NFL.
Well, Zach, he's been very consistent, and look, I know Denard Wilson very well. I've worked with him. I know the importance that he places on his safeties in this defense. He was a big proponent of getting Diggs in here, and he's a fan of Hook just because of the fact that he's consistent. He's very consistent, and also you can play him in multiple spots, which he has done, ever since he's gotten here. And it goes back to his days at Iowa, where they played him everywhere. So he's just a very, very consistent, dependable football player, which is huge, especially in the back end.
Well, that will do it for us. This is Coach Mack of Titans Radio. You can hear him during the call on all the games for the Tennessee Titans. And, of course, tonight at 6 p.m., you can call in and ask Coach Mack questions and talk to him on Mack Talk directly after 3HL right here on 104.5 The Zone. He's brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Coach Mack, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Always enjoy visiting with you. See you.
See ya. When we come back, we'll close out the show talking about taking your phone calls, because we see a lot of people have started calling in, 615-737-1045. So we'll take your phone calls, but we'll also close out. I want to ask Blaine a question that he may not be ready for, but it's about Derrick Henry and the future of the NFL running back. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. Is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, folks, you know I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they are leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physicians for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. And they have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations with walk-in availability 7 days a week. And they offer a direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy, and nutrition. Personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out their services at TOA.com. That's TOA.com.
Final segment here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. And, of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And we're going to go to Frank in Nashville and wants to talk about Tony Pollard. Frank, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
All right, so I believe that Tajay Spears is the better running back for the Tennessee Titans. Tajay Spears can find the gap better, but Tajay Spears will just run into the defense. Also, I feel like Tajay Spears is more an electric back. He can run faster and he can find the gap better. What we need for the game to beat the Colts is to definitely outrun the Indianapolis Colts. To beat them, I feel like we're just going to have to give Tajay Spears more touch instead of Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's a good back, but Tajay Spears is faster and more electric player.
All right, Frank. I think that there is been a reason why to get Spears more involved, right? I think the Miami game showed that Spears can do a lot of stuff that maybe Tony Pollard has missed out on. He's seen a couple different things differently, but I do think that getting to that 50-50 split is what they've struggled to do the first 4 weeks. And I think that if they can find that 50-50 split, you're going to get the best of Tony Pollard, and the best of Tajay Spears, and the best out of your run game right now. But you're going to have to find a way to use them both equally.
What has been the percentage you think off a guess?
70-30, maybe closer to 80-20, I would say, than it is to 60-40.
Well, I know the first game, maybe not as much, but since that first game, I think it's been pretty much what I thought would happen. And it's just the politics of the game. It's not about who actually is the better player, to be honest, but it's actually the guy who's making the biggest dough. And so once you sign someone to $7 million, other guys making, I don't know what he makes, $800,000, I don't know, then you're actually asking more out of that person. You're going to give them the ball. It's no different than the receiver you signed for all the dough. You're going to target them more. So I always thought that Pollard was the better back, even in this case, but also was going to get more share of the carry. If not, then why'd you go get him? You could have signed anybody for a lesser amount. And Spears could have been the focal point. So they're somewhat similar, but I think we're all seeing, even though Spears is a real good player, that Pollard is the better player.
Yeah, I do think Pollard is the better player, but I do think Spears provides you some burst and agility and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. And I've always been a big Spears fan anyway.
Oh, me too.
So I was really hoping that, Spears would end up. I do think so far, by the way, because I forget that they're probably on the field a couple of times at the same time.
Yeah.
It is 62.7% for Tony Pollard.
Oh, so it's not that bad.
And 39.4%. So it actually was closer to 60-40 than more than I thought. So, and I think that's because there has been a recent uptick in usage as well.
It has.
He got a lot of run in that Miami game, and it worked. It helped. They both did. So it will be interesting to see how they use them going forward, because I do think that may be one of the things that you may tweak just a little bit. Like you may start seeing some more, both of them being on the field than you have in the first 4 weeks here going on now. But speaking of running backs and stuff, a lot of people think that Derrick Henry is going to be the last 10,000-yard rusher. And I have a hard time finding that to be probable. Now, is it possible? Yeah, sure. Anything's really possible. But I think with the usage of two high safeties and all this kind of stuff, you'll start seeing teams attack on the ground more and all this kind of stuff. And there's going to be, faster, more athletic, more powerful players as the years go on. That's just how the game has kind of constantly evolved. Everybody's a little bit quicker. Everybody's a little bit faster, a little bit stronger. But I also think that there's going to be an 18th game. And I think that 18th game is going to help certain players reach milestones that you probably wouldn't have thought were going to reach milestones. So I'm not trying to take away anything from Derrick Henry going 10K and 100 rushing touchdowns. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I think the people that think that this won't ever happen again I just have a hard time seeing that.
Well, unlike you, I think it's going to go to 20 games sooner than later. And so, yeah, I do believe that it'll be a 10,000.
Yeah, if it's 20 games, I'm
for sure. It may go 18, then 20, but I think eventually that's where they're going to go. So, yeah, I think it'll be another 10,000-yard rusher. Maybe not to the liking of that kind of style of runner.
Yeah.
But it's the NFL. There's ebbs and flows. We are now in a trend of all throwing, and guess what we're starting to see now? The trend is going back to you need to start running the football because of the too high safety look, as Zach just mentioned. So I think then that leads to more teams running the football. So, yeah, I think it will be just the consistency of a player being on one team, though, that will be up to debate. But I think it will be.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, look at Ashton Gianti. I don't know if you've watched any of the running back from Boise State.
Oh, yeah.
He's already got 1,031 yards on the season already.
That's crazy.
10.9 yards per carry, which is even crazier, 16 touchdowns. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be the next 10,000-yard rusher. There's just these players that come through. I think saying anything that is going to be for sure off the table with the players that are coming through just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like I said, it's possible. I just think it's highly improbable.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's where I'm at on that. Speaking of the run game in the Tennessee Titans, the yards before carry for the offensive line has been worse than anything than that Derrick Henry has seen throughout his time here for the Tennessee Titans right now. And it is downright terrible. There's only one game, Blaine.
I wish I could have saw your eyeballs.
Listen, there's only one game, okay? One game where they're above, where they have allowed at least 1 yard before contact.
Oh, wow.
Everything else has been 0.4, 0.7, or even in the negatives for the other 3 games. I mean, that is insane. So that's something that we're going to touch on tomorrow is the offensive line, what they have to do to improve, what the pass rush has to do to improve is stuff that we're going to be talking about tomorrow. We're also going to go around the NFL with Jordan DeJaney as well. So next up is 3HL. So you got to make sure you tune in for those guys. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.